Listen carefully. Most people think quitting is something they do. That's wrong. Quitting is something they become. It doesn't happen all at once. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't show up with warning signs and alarms. It sneaks in quietly, one skipped workout, one unfinished set, one moment where stopping felt justified, and that's the danger. Because the most destructive decisions in your life will not feel reckless. They will feel reasonable. You'll be tired. You'll be busy. You'll be stressed. And quitting will present itself as self-care. That's the lie. The truth is simpler and harsher. Every time you quit, you are training yourself how to respond to pressure. And pressure does not disappear just because you avoid it. It waits. It waits in your career. It waits in your relationships. It waits in moments where excuses are no longer accepted. And when that moment comes, you won't suddenly rise up and become strong. You will default to what you practiced. That's why the gym matters, not because of aesthetics, not because of numbers, but because the gym is where patterns are exposed. The iron doesn't care who you think you are. It doesn't care about your intentions. It doesn't care about your mood. It cares about one thing: will you finish the rep or will you quit? And every answer to that question shapes you. You don't notice it at first. That's what makes it dangerous. You tell yourself, it's just today. You tell yourself, it doesn't matter. You tell yourself, I'll make it up later. But your nervous system is always watching. It logs everything. It remembers whether you stayed or escaped. And over time, it builds a default response. Pressure shows up. What do? If you quit often enough, quitting becomes automatic. No debate, no drama. Just exit. That's how people lose years of potential without ever realizing when it happened. They didn't fail dramatically. They drifted. And drifting always happens in the direction of weakness. Here's the hard truth most people avoid. You don't quit because you're weak. You quit because you trained quitting. And anything that is trained can be untrained. But only if you stop lying to yourself. Only if you stop pretending that quitting is neutral. It's not. Quitting always costs something. Costs confidence. It costs momentum. It costs identity. Every time you walk away early, your brain learns something. This is who we are when it gets hard. And the brain believes evidence more than words. You can tell yourself you're disciplined. You can tell yourself you're strong, but the brain doesn't listen to talk. It listens to patterns. That's why motivation doesn't save people. Motivation is emotional. Patterns are structural. Motivation comes and goes. Patterns stay. And right now, whether you like it or not, you are building one. The most dangerous phrase in training is not, I quit. It's almost finished the workout. Almost stayed consistent. Almost pushed through. Almost is weakness dressed up as effort. Almost teaches your system that stopping early is acceptable. And once that lesson is learned in the gym, it leaks everywhere else. At work, when the pressure rises, in life, when things stop being exciting, in moments where staying would build you, but leaving feels easier. Almost never changes anything. Finish does. And finish doesn't care how you feel. That's the part people struggle with. They want their feelings to cooperate. They want energy. They want confidence. They want motivation. But discipline doesn't wait for those things. Discipline moves without them. That's why disciplined people don't look dramatic. They don't look hyped. They look boring. Consistent, predictable, reliable. And that reliability is dangerous because it compounds. Here's something you need to understand clearly. The iron is not trying to hurt you. It's trying to expose you. Expose where you hesitate. Expose where you negotiate. Expose where you quit early. That's not punishment. That's feedback. And feedback is a gift if you're honest enough to accept it. Most people aren't. They blame sleep. They blame stress. They blame genetics. Anything except the pattern. Because patterns require responsibility. And responsibility means you can't hide. That's why people avoid the gym. Not because it's hard, but because it's honest. You can lie to people. You can lie online. You can even lie to yourself for a while. But you can't lie to the bar. It either moves or it doesn't. And if it doesn't move, there's no one to blame. Just a decision that wasn't made. This is where the shift begins. Not with hype, not with screaming, not with motivation, with a decision. A quiet one. A decision made before the workout starts. Before fatigue. Before excuses appear. The decision is simple. I finish. Not I'll try. Not I'll see how I feel. Finish. That decision removes negotiation. And negotiation is where weakness lies. Strong people don't debate quitting mid-set. They remove the option long before they touch the weight. When quitting is not on the table, energy changes. You stop asking, can I stop? You start asking, how do I finish? That question builds capability, because capability grows under pressure. And pressure is exactly what you're avoiding when you quit early. Understand this clearly. You are not training muscles first. You are training responses. Responses to fatigue, responses to discomfort, responses to resistance. The gym is rehearsal. Rehearsal for life under load. And right now, you are either rehearsing endurance or escape. There is no neutral session. Every workout teaches something. Every decision leaves a mark. And that mark becomes identity over time. That's why this matters. Because identity determines behavior, and behavior determines outcomes. If you want a different outcome, you need a different identity. And identity is built when no one is watching. When quitting would be easy. When stopping would be reasonable. When continuing feels unnecessary. That's where it's decided. So here's a reality check. You don't need more motivation. You don't need a better program. You don't need perfect conditions. You need fewer exits. You need to stop giving yourself permission to quit early, because every permission slip you write today will be cashed tomorrow with interest. And tomorrow doesn't negotiate. Tomorrow demands. So does life. So does the iron. Become someone who doesn't quit, not by saying it, but by finishing what you start again and again and again. That's how the identity forms, quietly, relentlessly, permanently. Let's get something straight. If you are still relying on motivation, you are already behind. Motivation is unreliable. Emotions are unreliable. Feelings change faster than circumstances. Discipline does not. And the people who last in the gym, in life, under pressure, are not the most motivated. They are the most consistent under discomfort. That's the separator. Not talent, not genetics, not inspiration. Consistency when it would be easier to stop. Most people misunderstand discipline. They think discipline is intensity. They think it's aggression. They think it's hype. Wrong. Discipline is quiet. Discipline is showing up when nothing feels urgent. Discipline is doing the work when no one is watching. Discipline is executing even when the outcome feels far away. That's why it's rare, because it doesn't feel rewarding in the moment, and the human brain hates delayed rewards. That's why quitting feels good temporarily. Quitting gives relief. Finishing gives results, and relief is addictive. That's the trap. Here's what happens when you quit consistently. Your nervous system starts protecting comfort instead of performance. Pain shows up, retreat. Fatigue shows up, stop. Resistance shows up, escape. Over time, this becomes automatic. You don't consciously decide to quit anymore. You just do. And then you wonder why life feels heavy. It feels heavy because you trained yourself to be fragile. That's not an insult. That's a diagnosis. And diagnosis can be treated if you stop lying. Let's talk about standards. Standards replace motivation. Standards don't care how you feel. Standards don't change because your mood changed. Standards don't negotiate. When your standard is, I finish what I start, quitting is no longer an option. It's not a moral battle. It's not a dramatic moment. It's just not allowed. And when something is not allowed, energy stops leaking into excuses. This is why disciplined people look calm under pressure. They already decided. They already accepted the cost. You are stressed when you are still negotiating. Remove negotiation. Remove stress. Think about this in the gym. The hardest reps are not the first ones. They're the last ones. The reps where your body is sending signals. Stop. This is enough. You've done enough, but your standard says otherwise. And when you push through that signal, not recklessly, not stupidly, but deliberately, something changes. You don't just build muscle, you build authority over yourself. You prove something, not to the world, to your nervous system. You teach it. Don't run when it's uncomfortable. That lesson carries into your work, into your relationships, into moments where others fold. This is why comfort is the enemy. Comfort feels safe. Comfort feels reasonable. Comfort feels earned. But comfort over time erodes capability. It dulls urgency. It weakens tolerance. It shrinks your operating range. And then when real pressure arrives, it feels overwhelming. Not because it's extreme, but because you avoided discomfort for too long. The gym is controlled discomfort. It's voluntary hardship. And voluntary hardship builds involuntary resilience. That's the trade. You suffer a little by choice or suffer a lot by force later. There is no third option. Most people want confidence. They chase it. They try to think it into existence. That doesn't work. Confidence is not thought-based, it's evidence-based. Confidence comes from keeping promises to yourself. Every finished workout is a vote. Every completed rep is a vote. Every time you don't quit, another vote. Over time, the votes add up. And one day you realize something: you don't need to hype yourself anymore. You trust yourself. And self-trust is power. Let me be blunt, you are not tired. You are under-trained for discomfort. Big difference. Your body is capable of more. Your mind just hasn't been forced to follow through yet. And that's not fixed with inspiration. It's fixed with exposure. Exposure to effort. Exposure to strain. Exposure to finishing anyway. That's how tolerance grows. That's how weakness disappears. Not instantly, gradually, relentlessly. Here's the shift you need to make. Stop asking, how do I feel today? Start asking, what is required? Required doesn't care about mood. Required doesn't care about excuses. Required demands execution. And when you live in required, quitting becomes abnormal. That's the identity change. You don't become someone who doesn't quit by declaring it. You become that person by removing exit routes daily. No dramatic moment. No transformation montage. Just reps. Just days. Just standards. Understand this: discipline is not restrictive. It's freeing, because once discipline is in place, you don't waste energy deciding. You just act. And action kills doubt. That's why disciplined people move fast. Not rushed. Decisive. They don't wait to feel ready. They are ready because they act. So here's your assignment, and this is not optional if you want change. The next time you train, you finish. Not perfectly. Not heroically. You finish. You complete the session you planned. You complete the reps you committed to. You do not negotiate mid-workout. That single decision matters more than adding weight, because that decision rewires behavior, and behavior is destiny. You want to become someone who doesn't quit. Then stop romanticizing intensity. Start respecting consistency. Intensity burns out, consistency builds, and builders last. Here's the reality most people avoid. You don't quit because things are hard. You quit because your identity allows it. Read that again. Your behavior is not random. It's permission-based. If deep down you believe quitting is something you sometimes do, then under pressure you will do it every time. Not because you're weak, because you've allowed it. So if you want permanent change, motivation won't save you. Tactics won't save you. New routines won't save you. Identity will. Let's break this illusion. Most people try to change outcomes first. They want a better body, more discipline, more confidence, more respect. But outcomes don't change first. Identity changes first. And identity is built through evidence, not affirmations. You don't become someone who doesn't quit by saying it. You become that person by surviving moments where quitting was available and choosing not to take it. That's it. That's the formula. Pressure reveals identity. When everything is smooth, everyone looks disciplined. Pressure is the audit. Fatigue, stress, failure, pain, boredom. That's when the real you shows up. And if you don't like who shows up, good. That means you have clarity. Most people numb that moment. You're supposed to confront it. The gym is just training ground. Iron doesn't care about your story. It doesn't care about your excuses. It doesn't care about your past wins. It only responds to force, consistency, and time. And that's why it's honest. Every rep is feedback. You either do the work or you don't. No negotiation. And when you repeatedly face something that doesn't bend to emotion, something inside you hardens. Not emotionally, structurally. You start to realize, I can be uncomfortable and still perform. That realization is dangerous in a good way. Because once you know that, excuses lose power. Let's talk about quitting at a deeper level. Quitting is not failure. Quitting is identity preservation. People quit to protect an image of themselves. I tried. It wasn't the right time. I could have done it if Quitting allows you to avoid fully committing, and therefore avoid full accountability. That's why quitting feels relieving. But relief is not growth. Relief is stagnation with good PR. And disciplined people don't chase relief, they chase capability. Here's the uncomfortable truth: you don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your non-negotiables. If quitting is negotiable, you will quit. If showing up is optional, you will skip. So you eliminate the option, not emotionally, systematically. This is how you do it. You stop asking, how do I feel? And you start asking, What does someone like me do? Someone like me trains even when tired. Someone like me finishes reps even when they burn. Someone like me keeps promises, especially the small ones. When behavior aligns with identity, willpower disappears. You're not forcing yourself. You're being yourself. That's the goal. Most people think discipline is exhausting. It's not. Indecision is exhausting. Negotiating with yourself every day is exhausting. Should I go? Maybe tomorrow. I'll see how I feel. That mental noise drains energy. Discipline removes noise. Once the decision is made, execution is simple. Hard, but simple. Now understand this, you will still feel resistance. Discipline does not remove resistance. It removes surrender. You will feel tired. You will feel doubt. You will feel like stopping. But you won't obey those signals automatically. You'll observe them and continue anyway. That's maturity. This mindset doesn't make you reckless. It makes you reliable. Reliable to yourself. Reliable under stress. Reliable when outcomes matter and reliability compounds. People trust reliable people. Opportunities follow reliable people. Confidence follows reliable people. Not loud people. Not intense people. Consistent people. Let's talk about the long game. Anyone can be intense for a week. Anyone can push hard when inspired. But life is not a highlight reel. Life is repetition. And repetition exposes character. That's why the quiet grinders win. Not because they're special, but because they don't disappear when it gets boring. You don't need to train harder. You need to train longer. Longer commitment, longer consistency, longer patience. And that only happens when quitting is removed from your identity. So here's the line in the sand. From this point forward, you don't finish when it feels good. You finish when it's done. You don't stop because it's uncomfortable. You stop when the task is complete. You don't ask for permission from your emotions. You lead them. This is not about being extreme. This is about being dependable. Dependable to your future self. Because the future version of you is built by what you do when no one is watching. If you want one rule, one principle, burn this into your head, do the work. Finish the task. Repeat. No drama, no speeches, no excuses. That's how weakness leaves. That's how confidence forms. That's how you become someone who doesn't quit. And when the voice shows up, the one that says, enough, stop, you've done enough, you've done enough. You don't argue, you don't panic, you say, not today, and you move. This is not motivation, this is discipline. And discipline doesn't hype you up. It carries you through. Final line, lock it in. You don't wait to feel strong. You act until strength has no choice but to follow. Now go. Finish what you start.